Hi, my name is Linda Ford, and the reason I'm making this video is because of a recent experience I had in Salt Lake City, Utah. I had a robbery on an Amtrak train and was stranded there. And I also am a 61-year-old lady who has congestive heart failure, asthma, and am basically dying at this point in time. And because of the fact that I was stranded there, I had to try to seek some assistance until I could get things together to be able to take care of myself. I'm making this video because of the Mormons, otherwise known as Latter-day Saints or LDS, the way their system is set up there, and the fact that it is unconstitutional for people who are not Mormons, and also that people who are not Mormons are denied human services for food, a place to sleep, and so forth, because of the fact that just because they're not Mormon. I basically had to go to them to ask for any assistance, and that's the way their system is set up. And that also includes the city. If you talk to the police there, it's the same thing. They'll tell you have to see the bishop at Welfare Square, which is where their little headquarters is for human assistance. And even if you go to a Catholic church, which I did at one time, they also tell you that you have no choice. You cannot get any assistance through them. You have to go to Welfare Square and to the Mormons. Now that in itself is unconstitutional for anyone who is not a Mormon and to be forced to have to go and to speak with them. And the first question that comes out of their mouth is, are you a Mormon? If not, you're automatically insulted. And basically, when I went in there, all the man said was, he actually lied to me and said, we're not putting up anybody in hotels or motels. The shelters are not open, they're totally filled, and there's no place, that you can really stay at this point in time. And if you want food, you have to work for them at one of their little plants or their little food center to get any food at all. It doesn't matter how old you are, if you're sick, it's all their control factor. And the fact that you have to work for them and do what they tell you if you want any help at all. And of course I refuse to do that because, number one, I will not go to their church, which is another factor, or attend their services, or do what they tell me, because this is America. That was not Mormon land, which I specifically told them, that under the rights of the Constitution, no one has the right to require anybody to attend their religious services or anything else to receive any kind of help. And because of the fact that I would not go along with any of that, they would not help at all. I found out later that they indeed put up a lot of street people in hotels and motels, and the fact that even some of the elders told me that they had lied to me let me know that they specifically picked me out not to help just because I would not go along with their little edicts that they try to give to people. And also, the fact of the matter is that I had one of their members come up in a wheelchair when I was sitting on a bench one day, and she was a lady in her 80s or 90s. And she said, I am actually a member of the church, and they have just told me today that they will no longer help me with a place to stay. They will not help me with my medications or anything else, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I will probably have to sit outside with a sign to try to ask for help. And I could not believe that they would do that to a woman her age and her condition and be so cold about it. And at that point I asked if they even advised her if there was any state assistance she could get, or the fact that there are drug companies that would help her at least with her medical supplies. No, they did not tell her any information, did not offer any alternative assistance whatsoever. And so I informed the lady, having worked in medicine myself, that those were options that she could check into. But she also told me at that time that because of the way the Mormons operate, being a Mormon herself, she said it depends on which group you belong to in the church if you're going to get any help at all. So that just shows that even within their own body, that they discriminate against people based upon who they think they want to help and who they don't. But the worst thing about all of this is the fact that because I would not go along with anything, and they didn't care if I starved, they didn't care if I was dying, they didn't care that I was 61 years old, they continued to keep anyone else from helping me, just so they thought that that would manipulate me to have to go to them and have to do what they wanted to get any assistance. And by starving, or by not getting any rest, or by ending up hospitalized, that eventually I would have to put up with them and what they wanted. But fortunately that did not happen. There were outside people that came into town and did help me with that. But I also talked to other people within the town, and I'm not only making this video because of what happened to me. I've talked to many people there who also went and received help and were not Mormons, who actually lived there and have lived there for many years. And one man in particular at a convenience store said that his wife had cancer and that they were going to have their lights turned off. And he simply went to try to get some help with that. And they made them sit there for 2 hours and then said they wouldn't do anything to help them and gave them a couple cans of food. And that was basically because they weren't Mormons. I know for a fact also, because of talking to other people, that when people who are Mormons go to see them, they see a totally different person than somebody who's not. And they're given hundreds of dollars for whatever needs they have and continue to receive money all the time. And that shows the complete difference between a person who's a Mormon and a person who's not a Mormon, who comes to seek aid. The fact that they filter them out through a whole different system lets you know that people who are not Mormons are being discriminated against. I feel that the government needs to step in and needs to do something about this. There could easily be a board appointed from different churches so that people from different religions can go and receive more equal help. And that has not even been considered there. There should also be no denial of services to somebody just because they're not a member of their religion. And when somebody is very ill or dying, that should be a priority. And they obviously don't prioritize the kind of people that come to see them. They just group them all, the non-Mormons, into one group and will not help them no matter what their situation is. And I also was able to see that not only were they trying to keep services from me, but they harassed me. I had Mormons come up to me and just say, "Are you LDS?" And if I said no, and there's no way that I would ever become one, and that someone had tried to push a Book of Mormon on me, which is what happened, that they've got a lot of nerve because they wouldn't do one thing to help me. And then they just say, "Oh." But I had people do that over and over again, even though I specifically said that I am not a Mormon, nor do I have any interest in becoming one, ever. So that just lets you know about that. Also, they are in charge of the shelter system there. They are the ones that have the money, the financial responsibility, and set the regulations of who can be there and so forth. And the fact of the matter is that I was harassed constantly by the shelter and street people there. And I came to find out that they are the ones who grant the favors. So they have the shelter people and their lower life element do their dirty work for them. They are the ones who were behind having these people harass me. As a matter of fact, one night, this specific man who continued to harass me over and over again, I saw him in the middle of the night talking to a group of Mormons. And this was when he was harassing me. And I just happened to be going to get a soda that night when I saw this going on. So that let me know right there in evidence that they were counseling him and encouraging him to continue on to do this to me. And in fact, the police did an investigation because I had to call the police many times for assaults, for harassment, for many things that were going on. And in the investigation, one of the sergeants found out that indeed it was the shelter people that were doing it. And mind you, as I already said, that the Mormons are the ones behind the shelter. And he said that I could contact the Attorney General or sue the shelter or whatever I decided. But that also lets you know exactly to the extent that they will go to. To be honest with you, I think if they thought that somebody was a threat to them keeping their little secret underhandedness and their little cultish, tendencies, that I wouldn't be surprised if somebody ended up dead. And I'm being very honest about that, because it's a miracle that I am still alive. I was stranded there for a whole year because nobody would help me. And during that time, I could have easily died because it was through the winter. And they didn't care how cold it was or what was happening to me. The only thing that saved my life was that a couple from Idaho came through and saw what was happening to me and took me to their home during the cold part of the winter. That is the only way I survived. And if other outside people, through conferences and visitors, had not helped me, I would have starved to death and would have gotten no rest whatsoever and would have ended up hospitalized or dead from the heart failure. And that is why I'm making this, because whoever is in charge of these kind of things going on within the government system needs to change this. And they need to tell them that they are not allowed to have this kind of monopoly in that town. And that certainly the city cannot cooperate in any such tactics going on, because this is unconstitutional and the city cannot support that. By rights, the city should support any church or any help organization helping people. And the churches, the other churches, I don't know whether they've been intimidated to where they feel they can't help people, whether some kind of edict has been passed by the church, or why they say that they cannot help anybody. But whatever is being controlled there as well has to also be reversed, because you should be able to go to a church of, any church of your religion that you want to, or even a general church that can be for anybody, and be able to ask for help. And no church should tell you you have to go to the Mormons to get help. And I'm just wondering, with what I saw and the damage to people, how many people have been severely hurt or even have died or not been able to survive because of the fact that that is a cult. And they control everything, and they own too much in that town, and they control with the money, and that's the way people have to live. And people feel that they have to pretend that they convert. I've talked to many people that way as well. Or pretend to go to their church just by putting on this fake show so that they can survive, or so they can get help, or so that they can even have a business in that town. And I don't understand why people stay there, because I certainly wouldn't. But people continue to live there and suffer under those conditions year after year after year. And the only reason that this continues to go on is because nobody has said anything. And that is why I'm speaking up and saying something, because I am hoping that this video will find its way to the right person who can do something to stop them from doing this and to change the system within that city. Thank you.